You're listening to Formosa Fauna. Today, I'm going to introduce you to my new favorite fish. I didn't even know I had a favorite fish until now. These fish open their own cleaning salons and massage parlors in the ocean. We're also going to talk about mutualism in biology, which is a lot more interesting than it sounds, and whether or not your dog is spiteful. Spend the next 20 minutes feeding your brain with Formosa Fauna so you can learn all about the animal kingdom and become smarter than all of your friends. Every Friday is Formosa Fauna Friday. I'm Tristan Hildebrand, the voice of Formosa Fauna. I'm just excited to be back to talk more about animals. I think we have a very interesting episode here today. If you're even remotely curious about animals, trust me, you're in the right place. Aside from our main course for today, we're also going to talk about whether or not you can raise your own Formosan macaque in Taiwan now that they're not a protected species. But before that, we have two current events. Let's dive right in. Here is your friendly reminder to get your cat microchipped. This is a good rule of thumb regardless of where you live, because you wouldn't want to lose your companion forever should you get separated. But this is an urgent matter in Taiwan because those of us here who have yet to microchip our cats can get fined starting January 2026. The fines go up to 15,000 NT dollars or 461 US dollars beginning January 1st. You can be repeatedly fined until your cat is microchipped. Consider yourself warned. Amid tense times across the Taiwan Strait, one news story shines a ray of hope on cross-strait relations fueled by the existence of animals. Taipei and Shanghai signed a Memorandum of Understanding, an MOU, on Tuesday to exchange African penguins and red pandas, establishing a cooperative relationship through animal exchanges. The MOU focuses on animal exchange, professional development, and personnel exchange according to the Taipei Zoo. It includes collaborative research on wildlife conservation management, technical support for species-specific care, and cooperation in breeding, husbandry, and medical technology. The zoo's red panda family consists of 11 individuals with 3 breeding pairs. The zoo introduced the red panda named Future from Japan last year to enhance genetic diversity and maintain population health. This year, it is planning to exchange African penguins for red pandas from Shanghai Zoological Park. The MOU was signed at the Taipei-Shanghai Forum, which began on Tuesday. Since its launch in 2010, the forum has facilitated over 40 MOUs. Did you know that over 17,000 species thrive in the deep sea where no light penetrates the ocean waves? Or that an old restaurant menu can teach us about the history of fish populations? Or that there are 38,000 different kinds of microbes in just a liter of seawater? These were all discoveries made by the Census of Marine Life, a 10-year international effort that assessed the diversity, distribution, and abundance of marine life. Today, you'll learn about a new fish, currently my favorite fish. This is actually very, very cute, and I typically don't find fish that interesting. Oh no, I shouldn't admit that, but it's true. Recently, I've made a deep dive. I've done a deep dive into, I guess, ocean life, and I've just been finding out so much that is so intriguing, including this bluestreak cleaner wrasse. And because this is important, I'm going to spell it out for you. Bluestreak cleaner is pretty self-explanatory, but wrasse is spelled W-R-A-S-S-E. They're basically fish that open up little cleaning salons and massage parlors, and their guests are fish that could literally eat them, swallow them whole, but don't because they're so good at their jobs. Imagine this: a long, skinny fish about the size of a cigar. The body is a bluish, whitish, almost silverish color, and they have a black stripe running from the tip of their nose all the way to the end of their back fin. They look simple but are so impressive. In the Indian Ocean and on coral reefs across the tropics, these fish stay busy because other fish will arrive and patiently await to have the blood-sucking parasites that are on their body nibbled away from their skin. These cleaner wrasse tend to hundreds of clients each day, more than a hair salon or a nail salon can get to. But much like our salon services, these working fish actually tailor their services according to their client, keeping them not only in business, but also alive. Very necessary. So imagine this. Everyone follows a strict etiquette when they show up to their salon. The cleaner wrasse, operating alone or in pairs, advertise their services by performing little dances, flicking their tails rhythmically side to side. Their clients hold perfectly still in a trance-like state while being served. Many of these clients are predators that could swallow the cigar-sized wrasse whole, if not before the service, then after the service. But they follow the truce and nobody gets eaten. These wrasse are brave enough to swim into the mouths of moray eels, groupers, and other sharp-toothed fish. Some liken it to a lion tamer putting their head inside the lion's mouth, but then climbing inside. If the wrasse sense that the client is a little dangerous or maybe a little hungry that day, they may only pick off parasites, dead skin, and nothing more. For herbivores like rabbitfish and surgeonfish, they're a bit more gutsy. The cleaner wrasse might also take a bite of living skin, but with a purpose. They want the slime that covers them and can help protect them from UV damage in the bright sunlight that washes over the tropical waters. They can't make this sunscreen themselves and have to get it from their diets, which leads them to take a chomp out of these more harmless herbivores, but they try to make it up afterwards by rubbing and smoothing the client with an all-over fin massage. Scientists have measured stress hormones dropping in fish's blood after a good massage, which keeps them coming back despite the chomp of skin being taken out or even a lack of parasites that need to be removed. So actually they will show up kind of time and time again, even if the, cleaning isn't necessary. They show up for the massage. These cleaner wrasse are not only good, hard little workers, they're also incredibly clever and have an impressive long-term memory. They know which fish have small territories and which ones have no other cleaning stations to go to. So if they storm off after getting bit, the wrasse knows that they'll be back because they know the fish have no other choices. So they know how to push people's buttons, other fish's buttons. It's incredible. It sounds like a little Disney movie or something, but it's real and it's happening in the ocean. Fascinating, truly fascinating. Relationships between people or between animals come in many shapes and many forms. The best kinds are ones where you both benefit. You go to a coffee shop and buy some coffee. You get served a product you want, and the person working makes money. Everybody's happy, and happy makes the world go round. Mutually beneficial relationships don't just happen between people, and they don't just happen between beings of the same species, as we're talking about with the bluestreak cleaner wrasse. So today's main course, if you can take one thing away from this, is mutualism. Mutualism is the association between organisms of two different species in which each benefits. One beautiful example of this is the relationship between humans and honey guides. Honey guides are a family of birds. They have an old world tropical distribution with the greatest number of species in Africa and 2 in Asia. Mostly dull brown colored, some have a bit of yellow in their plumage. They are among the few birds that feed regularly on wax, beeswax in most species. The eggs, larvae, and beeswax contained in bee nests are a key food source for greater honey guides. One of the ways these birds gain easy access to a nutritious meal is by leading other honey-coveting species to the nest and allowing them to do the hard work of breaking into it. The human-honey guide relationship is one of the best documented of these partnerships. The wild honey guides recruit people with a demanding call, indicating that they have found a bee nest. The honey-hunting humans reply with calls passed down through generations and then follow the bird. When they reach the nest, the humans subdue the bees, such as with smoke, and break into their nest and help themselves to the sugar-rich honey contained within. The Hadza people of Tanzania are one group known to work with honey guides. It has been estimated that up to 10% of their diet is acquired with the help of the birds. With the bees dispatched and the humans satisfied, the honey guides are left to dine on the beeswax, eggs, and larvae left behind. Sometimes in the ecosystem, some species may lose out to others while competing for the same resources or become prey to a predator. These mutually beneficial symbiotic relationships are those in which neither organism benefits at the expense of the other. A 1960s American ecologist Daniel Jansen found such a relationship existed between acacia trees and ants in eastern Mexico. He found that queen ants sought out unoccupied shoots in the acacia trees, cut a hole in one of the swollen thorns, and laid their eggs. Larvae hatching from the eggs would feed on the acacia's leaf tips with their rich supplies of sugars and proteins. The larvae then became worker ants, and eventually all of the tree's thorns became occupied with up to 30,000 ants in one colony. What made this relationship symbiotic was that unless the acacia ants were present to defend it, the swollen thorn acacia lost the ability to withstand damage caused by insects that ate its leaves, stems, flowers, and roots. Without the ants, the tree would be stripped of its leaves and die within 6 months to a year. In return for food and shelter, the ants provided two services: defending the foliage from leaf-eating insects and also eating potentially competitive tree seedlings nearby. They were beyond just mutually beneficial. Neither the colony nor the tree would have been able to survive without the other. One of the mutualistic relationships I know of best and that I've heard of before, that I think most people have some sort of recollection of, is the relationship between the leopard shark and remora fish that swim next to it, sometimes attached to their bodies. The remoras swim very close to the sharks, feeding off scraps of food dropped by the shark and also gaining some protection from predators. These sharks don't eat the remora fish because they also feed off of parasites on the shark's skin and in its mouth. The shark is perfectly happy with this because the parasites would otherwise irritate the shark. There are two fundamental types of mutualism: service, resource, and service-service relationships. Both are usually key to survival. Service-resource relationships are like those between flowers and butterflies, moths, bees, flies, wasps, beetles, bats, or birds. They help pollinate or fertilize. We can compare the relationship between humans and dogs versus that between humans and rodents like mice and rats. As much as I love mice and rats, on the symbiotic spectrum, they are probably considered parasites because they eat people's food, damage their belongings, spread diseases, and offer little in return. Dogs are often used as an example of mutualism for the various services they provide, like protecting, hunting, guiding, scouting, and far, far beyond. In the last episode, we started a new show segment centered around teaching listeners just like you how to teach dogs. Starting with the basics, tune in each episode and you'll eventually be able to do just about anything as far as training goes. I don't currently live with any dogs, but find the knowledge widely applicable as I grew up with dogs, hear of people in my circle who are struggling to train their dogs, and run into stray dogs on my way home in Taiwan just about every day. So if you're like me and don't currently have a way to apply these methods, there's no telling when exactly they might come in handy. I suppose this segment just recently started. This is the second time we're doing it, so we're still pretty much on the theoretical aspect of it and the very, very basics. But in this episode, we seek to answer the question of why dogs act badly. Is it true that dogs knowingly do bad things? Why? To make a point? To challenge your authority? Zach George, a professional dog trainer, says that knowing why dogs behave poorly, like nipping, lunging on a leash, or not listening, is paramount to resolving such issues. He says it's like the phrase, treat the cause, not the symptom, when it comes to dog training, which is also called inside-out training. If you were to be able to pinpoint your dog's nonstop barking, chewing, or digging on their lack of adequate exercise, you have a potential fix. If you're able to pinpoint your dog's aggression towards men on potentially a negative experience with men in the past, you open yourself up to potential fixes, like socializing your dog and desensitizing them to men. Let's say you started getting headaches because you were wearing the wrong prescription glasses. Taking painkillers might help you short term, but getting the right prescription would help you actually solve the issue. The first of the 3 biggest myths when it comes to dog misbehavior is dogs are spiteful. I have heard so many times people say, "My dog knows I don't like it when he does that, but he does it anyway." The ears being held back and puppy dog eyes tell the story that the dog knows they did something wrong. And if they knew, then why did they do it? Research suggests that dogs may not look ashamed due to doing something wrong, but rather because of being yelled at or scolded. Oftentimes, people with multiple dogs will have a dog who didn't do anything wrong at all look guilty after one of the other dogs did something wrong, just because they're very sensitive to their owner's response. In a study authored by Alexandra Horowitz, head of the Horowitz Dog Cognition Lab at Barnard College, said that dogs who were scolded for eating a treat looked just as guilty, regardless of if they had actually obeyed or not. The dogs most likely to show guilty behavior like avoiding eye contact, slinking away, or dropping their heads were those who were innocent and didn't take the forbidden treats. So while it really can feel like they're plotting and breaking the rules on purpose sometimes because they are highly intelligent creatures, it is much more likely that the dog is just not accustomed to your culture inside your home and accustomed to your expectations. It is not intuitive to their dog nature. It makes it even more confusing for them when, for example, plush slippers look and feel a lot like their dog toys. There are a lot of things in the human world and human culture that can be very confusing for dogs. Instead of starting to distort a dog's intentions by thinking that they are vindictive or stubborn, be reminded that dogs aren't premeditating, spiteful, conniving creatures. They live in the moment and can get a little distracted, but can follow guidance that you give them. All according to Zach George's Guide to a Well-Behaved Dog. Dogs may not be spiteful, but can they misbehave because they are trying to be dominant and challenge your authority? Tune in to next week's segment to find out. Formosan macaques, also known as Formosan rock macaques, are monkeys endemic to Taiwan and are the only native primates living in Taiwan besides humans. These monkeys are of decent size, adults weighing 5 to 12 kilograms, with some adults reaching 18 kilograms. If you're an American, that's about 11 to 40 pounds. They generally have a body length between 36 to 65 centimeters. If you're American, again, that's 14 to 26 inches. They're not too elusive and can be seen in a number of places across Taiwan, especially near mountainous areas. However, today we bring these macaques up again because the Taidong County government is reminding the public that raising and breeding Formosan rock macaques is illegal, punishable by fines between 50,000 to 250,000 NT dollars or 1,500 to 7,600 US dollars. The reminder comes after several people were found keeping and raising macaques as pets after their protected wildlife status was removed back in 2019. As of this month, the Taidong County government has dealt with 8 such cases this year, an increase from last year. Somehow, people are misinterpreting their non-protected status to mean they can be bred and raised at will, while that's just not the case and increases health risks for the monkeys and the humans. The government reminds people that breeding monkeys takes away their right to live in nature and results in them losing their ability to survive in the wild. We are reminded to abide by a 3-no's policy with regards to Formosan macaques. No feeding, no interfering, and no contact. For more information, refer to the Animal Protection Act and Act on Wildlife Conservation legislation, which still, in some way or another, protects the Formosan macaques. Making it to the end of an episode makes you a Formosa Fauna friend. Thank you for tuning in, friend. All animals require enrichment, and Formosa Fauna is just that. After all, we're all just a bunch of wild animals. See you next time for Formosa Fauna Fridays here on Radio Taiwan International.